We all know, and I speak about it often, about the halacha of Kol Ma'adavid Rachmana L'Tov. This is, in my opinion, the most important halacha in Shulchan Aruch. It's nogea quite often, but I'd like to share with you a story which taught me that it's more than we think. I was davening yesterday in my normal meeting, which is inside the tunnels of the Koisel. Everyone comes to the Koisel. If you want to join me in the most incredible davening experience in your life, please come to the Koisel for Nates and find me recording these shirim here, and I'll take you. It's a closed meeting, you have to be invited, but come for the most incredible davening experience in your life. Men are upstairs and women downstairs, and someone there who I had previously spoken to about my classes on thanking Hashem when things look bad, he told me the following. He asked me the following question. He said, "In Shulchan Aruch it says La'oli Adam Rogel Lomar. A person should be accustomed. He should be rogel. He should be frequent to say Kol Ma'adav Rachmana L'Tov. But why does he have to do it frequently?" So he asked me the question, and the answer is as follows: because if you do it all the time, then it becomes ingrained in your personality, and you'll do it in all times under all circumstances. And I liked the answer, and I was listening to him, and I added my own um, hosafah, my own addition to what he was saying. And then I looked down and I realized my tefillin were gone. I didn't have them. They were in the rain where I ran away because it was pouring, or it could be I left them in the mikveh, or it could be I left them somewhere else. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then I caught myself within Tokidei Dibra, within a few moments of hearing the halacha that you're supposed to be rogil, you're supposed to be accustomed to say it in order to ingrain your personality. I had fallen into the trap of, instead of saying Kol Ma David Rahman L'Tov, everything the Mercer one does good, I said, oh my gosh, which is a very weak substitute for it. It's better than other things I could have said. Like you're the biggest idiot I ever encountered about myself. But it pales in face of the infinitely wise wording which the Gemara gives us of everything that the Mercer one does, he does for good, which is great, great wisdom encapsulated in those few words. And I kind of kicked myself, and then I went to a gemach, I borrowed tefillin, eventually I realized I had left in the car, the driver who took me, because there was another passenger, so I needed to make place, so I put them in a different place, and I had forgotten about it. But in any event, it taught me this important lesson that it has to become ingrained in their personality. So now I want to tell you, so this morning I looked up this halacha, and I found such an incredible pshat. I must share it with you, from the Iyon Yaakov. Now we know there's a sefer called Ein Yaakov, and on the Ein Yaakov there's a commentary called the Iyon Yaakov. And I never knew this, but the Iyon Yaakov was written by the Baal Shvus Yaakov, Baal Minchas Yaakov, was one of the biggest Gaonim of the past few hundred years. And he has a commentary on the Torah Chatas. We use it almost daily in our Kolel. We're studying now Hilchas Kashas, and he also comes up on Hilchas Nida, the Torah Shlomim, one of the Gaonis of the past few hundred years. So he says a pshat in this Rogil. He says like this, and this blew my mind. I have to share it with you. He said, "Why do you have to be? What does it mean, Rogil Lomar?" Right? He said, even when something is good, you need to say it. Yeah. And it's so deep what he's saying, because things look bad. We have to thank Hashem when things look bad and to know that they're really good. But we also have to thank Hashem when things are good and understand that they're really good. Because sometimes the good surprises us. Sometimes something looks really good and it might not turn out to be so good. Right? So that's what it means, Rogel Lomar. Whether it's good or whether it's bad, in all situations. And when I saw the Shvus Yaakov, I understood the words of my Rebbe, Shlomo Brevda, was very, very ruggled to say in the name of the Rambam in Parashah Mishnayos in the commentary on the Mishnah in the beginning of the ninth parak of Brachos, that a person should accustom himself to say the Chatzlacha Amitis. This should be for true success. Right? It's on the Mishnah of just like you should make a bracha on the good, you should make a bracha on the bad. So says the Rambam, you shouldn't say something is good, or you should never say something good or bad, because something looks really good and it turns out bad, and something looks really bad, it turns out good. We don't know from our superficial outlook on things. We don't know if something is good or bad. So the only thing we know and we could say is it should be Hatzlacha. Hashem should make this event to be successful for me. It should be Hatzlacha. As once I was by Rav David Koyen, uh, Shlit of the Rosh Yeshiva in Hebron, and he gave someone a bracha for Hatzlacha. I said, "Can you give him a bracha?" He said, "What do you mean? I just gave him the biggest bracha possible. You should have Hatzlacha," he told me, because he wanted to teach me what a real bracha is. And this is it. Everything we do, it should be for Hatzlacha. And I have to tell you, yesterday, like I got really taught that even though today this year is, I don't know, close to 1,300 shirim, I'm thanking Hashem when things look bad, but like I don't know the first thing about it. Right? I can, within like a few seconds of hearing this halacha, say, "Oh my gosh," instead of "Kol ma David Rahman al Tov." Anyway, so I have a close friend here who I see every morning at the Kosel. His name is Rabbi Yossi Segel from Brooklyn. He's here davening at the Kosel every morning, and he told me that there's a Maharal who says this. And I found this morning the Maharal is in the Nesiva B'Tochon, Parak Aleph. And I'll give you the wording of the Maharal just because you have to hear this. You might not believe me otherwise. So the Maharal says like this. The Maharal says that this halakha is coming to teach us a very deep thing. The word of the Maharal says. He says, "Lifi Amar Rabbi Akiva Kol Ma'ader Rachman L'Tov Kalomar Ki Boteach B'Hashem Ki Mashinas L'Tov." Even though he lost his donkey and his candle and his cat and he didn't find lodging, Kol Mashas L'Tov of it, Umach must be talking about Hashem, Nasilo Hadar Tova, Midav Shai Nira. Even if it was bad, Hashem will make it good. So Hashem, if you do this, no matter what it is, if it looks bad and it's really good, if it looks good and it's really bad, whatever it is, Hashem will make it really good. And this is the Rambam says, Tzlocha Mitzvah, true success. And then Rabbi Segel told me the following story that he knows about somebody who was in a business deal, and he bought a big piece of property in Manhattan, like a massive building, and he paid a certain amount of money for it. The next day or two, it went up $100,000. He got a buyer. He said, "I'm going to flip it. I'm going to make an easy $100,000, 100 grand." Anyway, they go to sign the contract, and they realize in the contract you can't sell it for a certain amount of time. He was devastated. He had $100,000 in his pocket. Yeah, so the deal was off. Anyway, he still owns his building, and it's probably worth like 500 times what he paid for it. So there you go. You know, never should a person think something is bad ever, no matter what happens. And it's so hard. You see, like, I can't believe it. Like, here I am saying this year every morning at the coastal. And you would think like it's going to make an impact, and it does. Believe me, it does. And I'm very grateful whoever listens to it. My daughter told me yesterday. She called me up. She said we listened to your share in the car, and it was really nice. So people, at least I know my daughter listens to it. That's comforting. But the point is like this. The point is that it's all good, and even the good is good, and the bad is good. Everything is good. It's all good, right? And we just have to internalize that and live our life like that. That's why this is the most important halacha. Because this is 24/7. It's a constant outlook on life that everything happens that's good. And this works better than Prozac and all these other medicines. Yeah, I'm not saying you shouldn't take it if you're taking it. It could be very helpful for many people. Yeah. But it together, like this is the diagnosis or the prescription. Take Prozac, but also be rugged to say Kol David Rahman and Tov, and there's also St. John's wort. There's a few things that people use which are very, very effective if you're in a bad mood, or you might try just counting to three and then talk. Whatever techniques work for you, but you must say Kol David Rahman and Tov of it. And the Shos Yaakov taught us tonight, even when something looks good, you should say it because you don't really know if it's good, right? Or you could say, like the Ram says, it should be Hatzlacha Amitis. And if you do this, your life will be so much more pleasant. Yeah? To tell you another story yesterday that happened to me. It was like a really tough day. I'm trying to make a shidduch for 2 years. Like I'm really working. This couple was going out and they broke up. And I happened to be the shadchan because my wife couldn't talk. She had corona. Anyway, so I felt really bad they broke up. The boy really wanted to continue. Then a year, the girl breaks it up. A year later, the girl calls me up. She wants something. I'm trying working 2 years to put this shidduch together. Yeah. And then finally the boy says yes. The girl says yes. They're ready to go out. Okay, there's major money problems. you know. So they tell me like the Rav is not willing to let them go out until they have some money. I mean, they have to like at least live. At least have straw to sleep on, like Rabbi Akiva. Like at least Rabbi Akiva had some straw to sleep on. Anyway, okay. So I'm trying to put together some money and this, and like things are just not going, one problem after the other. And I started to get a little bit upset. And I realized, come on, David, the money will come, it'll come. Don't worry about it. Uh, whoever wants to send me can do it at dytravis613@gmail.com. And then, like, I look at the Chesed fund, and like someone just sent me some money. So that's it. It's all good. And no matter how many, and it seems like every time one obstacle falls away, another obstacle comes. And like, what, God is telling me something? I don't know. But the answer is that it's all good. No matter what happens, is good. And if it works out, it's good. If it doesn't work out, it's good. It's all good. Um, we have to really, really internalize this and make it part of our being, right? Just like if you stick your hand in the fire, you scream. If something happens, you should say, Koma David Rachmana Latova. It should be rogel, and that's the real answer. It should be rogel, like my friend Rabbi Field told me, yeah, that it should be ruggle. It should be ingrained in your personality, be so much part of you. Like if someone says it's not good, you're like, you're crazy, right? And if he just like, uh, I always tell the story how 31 years ago I run over by a car and I was pronounced dead. So, I'm lying there in the street. Okay, I don't remember because I was unconscious. But let's say some guy came up to me and said, like, this is really bad. Kama David Rachmana Latova of it, like my famous story. I was in Manhattan and I go into shul and I slipped, come out of shul. I'm not used to snow. I'm from Jerusalem. Yeah. And I slip on the ice and I broke my ankle. They take me to St. Luke's Hospital on 116th Street in Manhattan, right? In the Harlem neighborhood. And they wheel me in on a what do they call those things? On a stretcher or whatever. And I'm smiling. And they said, like, Mr. Sir, why are you smiling? I said, because I know it's for the best. I said, take this guy to Bellevue. He lost his mind. He's crazy. Okay, maybe I am. It could be it's true. But the point is like this. Even when you broke your ankle and it was like this wide, it was like three times the size. It was really painful. And it was Erev Shabbos. I told the doctor, Dr. Ezekiel, who was Puerto Rican, I said, listen, Dr. Ezekiel, I want to tell you two things. Number one is you're named after the greatest prophet, one of the greatest prophets who ever lived. And I told him about the Meister Cover. His eyes were popping out. He was a religious Christian. I said, number two, Dr. Ezekiel, I said, in 2 hours from now, it's a Jewish holiday, the Sabbath. If you don't get me out of here in an hour, I'm going to be stuck here for the next 25 hours. And we don't want that, right? No, no, sir. 1 hour he had me out, and by the time the bell went off or whatever happens in Brooklyn, I was in Brooklyn by my good friend Chaim Miller for Shabbos. So this is the point. Even if you chas v'shalom get run over by a car, or you fall in the ice and break your ankle, right? And even if you just can't find your tefillin, right? Or if something good happens, like the best thing possible, your son or daughter get engaged, or you have a baby, grandson, Eniklach, you should say, it should all be good, because who knows? Who knows? Only one entity knows, and that's Hashem. And the more we connect him, and the more we realize that everything he does is good, it's just one path. And this is what I understand the ruggle. The ruggle is because you have to connect one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. You can miss something. Yeah? It's all just one retzip. It's all one path and mahalach of goods. Yeah? You have to string all the pieces together. Unless you string all the pieces, unless you sew all the pieces together, like we said that Leah did, she grabbed the plach of Odoah, right? She spun all of the incidents together into one thread, and that was what it means. She held on to the spool of thanks. The spool of thanks is the understanding that it's all good. In any event, we said a lot here today. I'll just review it quickly. We said that everything, a person should accustom himself to say that everything Hashem does is good. We said a few reasons for that. Number one, it becomes part of your personality, right? And even if you lose your tefillin, you'll say it. Number two is that you'll realize that even the good is good. Yeah, and me, right? And you'll understand that even in the good, you have to understand that it's good because it might not be good, right? You should always say that, or say it's Hatzlacha Amitis, right? We explained that you have to put everything together. You have to be rugged to say it, because then you see every single thing is part of one plan, one divine plan of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And if you do that, then we'll successfully have a life of simcha and sasan. Call mili the meitav. We should all be zocheh to fill this halacha with the greatest tiktok, amen, KNTA, Ratzon.